To assume at this point that Ben Roethlisberger is somehow blameless in the overall drama in Pittsburgh, set aside the racist accusations, I can't address that, but I can address the overall dysfunction, locker room drama, players going at each other. I can't address that, and Ben Roethlisberger is clearly a part of all of that. He is clearly, as a supposed leader on that football team, someone who hasn't brought that team together, who at least some players in that locker room don't see as a leader they want to follow. Ben Roethlisberger is clearly somebody who shoulders some of the blame of the dysfunction and drama in Pittsburgh. You know who else is? Number 2, Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is an extremely likable coach. It seems like many players who played for him want to. He's a player's coach. But the buck has to stop somewhere. And the head coach is a pretty good place to look. When you have this much going on around you, when you have this much absolute dysfunction, don't you start to look at leadership at some point? Don't you start to look at the person who's supposed to be in charge and bring these guys all together? Don't you at some point have to stop the buck at the head coach? Mike Tomlin is in no small part someone that shoulders blame for this drama and dysfunction in Pittsburgh. But the primary mover, the person that first hit their brakes on the freeway, the person that set all of this in motion, the one who's primarily to blame, is Antonio Brown. He is the one walking away like in Stella Got Her Groove Back, with like a match she's thrown over her shoulder into an absolute engulfed in flames wreckage behind him. He is the one smiling as he walks away, having caused or exposed most of this dysfunction.
Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pins Oil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Lady, and on ESPN News, Will Cain sitting in for Stephen A. today. If you missed any of my opening segment where I laid out for you the hope and false hope of Tigers opening day at the Masters, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast, brought to you by the Capital One Savor Card. Earn 4% cash back on dining and entertainment, 2% at grocery stores, and 1% on all other purchases. What's in your wallet? All right, so let's move over. Let's talk about the NFL. Let's talk about one of the biggest dysfunctional messes I have seen in modern football memory. Not in my lifetime can I remember a team as messed up as the Pittsburgh Steelers. And to talk about that, let's bring in our friend, Super Bowl champion, ESPN NFL insider, Teddy Bruschi, who's on the Shell Pins Oil Performance Line. What's up, Teddy?
Well, I'm doing good. And yes, you talk about dysfunction. We're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers because there's a lot going on there.
Man, seriously, I can't remember anything this big of a mess, Teddy. I mean, I'm a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. I lived through the 90s. I don't even know what comes close. I don't know what rivals this, where I've got current players, I've got former players, I've got everybody. It's like a battle royale in WWE. Yeah. I mean, it's coming in from every angle here. Chairs are being swung. I don't even know whose side is what side now. What's going on here, man? How do you make sense of it?
Yeah. And with everybody with their own microphone, which is social media, it just adds another layer. So you keep peeling it back and you keep having another perspective. And it goes on and on, all the way through pre-Antonio Brown, how Le'Veon Bell affected the chemistry of the locker room. I mean, he wasn't in terms of a distraction, and that is Antonio Brown right now, but still the reaction of the players, the reaction of the former players on a public forum is surprising to me. I mean, me being a Patriot, I mean, it was just something that Coach Belichick would always warn us about, was social media, even when it was in its infancy about 10 years ago when I was there. So Mike Tomlin, I look to, and, I see this as an opportunity. That's what I see, because you can let all this happen in April right now, but to get your team back and under control without a distraction that is Antonio Brown right now, and moving forward with the leaders that you have along that offensive line and Ben Roethlisberger, we're going to see how good of a coach he is, because that's one of the main responsibilities of the head coach, in my opinion, is to get everyone on the same message. So we'll see if Tomlin can do that.
Teddy, so I want to run this by you. I feel like I'm almost of two minds here. I argued this morning on First Take, filling in for Stephen A. as well. Like, I believe in leadership. Obviously, you do as well. You played for one of the greatest leaders, obviously one of the best coaches of all time in Bill Belichick. And so I agree, and I believe in the idea that the buck has to stop somewhere. You can't keep passing it, and leadership is where the final desk sits that you pass the buck to. So Mike Tomlin has to be part of the blame here and part of the solution. And if you're part of the solution, that means you had to, at some point, allowed it to exist. You were part of the problem. What I'm getting at is I think Mike Tomlin had to have at least allowed a culture to develop where this could happen, Teddy. But here's the other thing. I'm telling you, I'm of two minds here. How do you do this? Like, how do you get a bunch of people to stay off social media? Ultimately, it's like everybody's individual judgment, right? Each human being has to sit down and go, is this a smart idea or is this really dumb? And too many guys with the Steelers have decided something that was incredibly dumb was smart to do. And I don't know what Mike Tomlin can do to fix that.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, especially you're talking about social media and talking about how easy it is for players to get their voices and opinions out there. A big thing that we had was speak for yourself. You want to talk about social media, you talk about your situation, you talk about your job, things like that. But it's just so far beyond that now in Pittsburgh that I think Tomlin's got to, get on the same page with a core new group of leaders. I mean, now that, believe me, Antonio Brown, it's coming. You're just seeing the layers peeled back now. How much of a distraction it must have been for so many of them. And then watching a player like that, knowing he was the best offensive player on the football team, and to be able to do this behavior and then still, he's performing. So it's confusing. So that's gone. So Tomlin can reestablish a new culture. It's going to be extremely difficult. If he gets guys like Pouncey and Foster and Roethlisberger on the same page, it's possible. But it's going to be an incredibly tough coaching job to do.
ESPN NFL analyst Teddy Bruschi here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Will Cain filling in for Stephen A. today. You ready to run, man? You ready to go?
The Boston Marathon. Thanks, buddy. Yeah. Monday I'll be running with 48 other runners of mine from my foundation on Teddy's team. They say it's going to rain. I may need a poncho. But what we say is we survive, we run. We're going to go out there and left foot, right foot, repeat. Left, right, repeat over and over again through a bunch of puddles. It is New England. It is the weather, but very excited about running my third Boston Marathon on Monday, man. It's like my theme has been sort of three rings, 3 medals, and I'm out.
This will be your last one? This is it?
I think so.
Really? 3 marathons, 3 Boston marathons. Have you done more marathons than that?
No, just Boston.
Always Boston.
I've always called it like the Super Bowl of road races. It's just a special, spectacular event that people come from all over the world to run, tens of thousands of people, and I'll be out there hopefully, buddy, coming down Boylston Street to finish it off.
Teddy Bruschi only plays in Super Bowls, only runs in Super Bowls. All right, man. I want to ask you something about Aaron Rodgers. I want to talk to you about this piece that came out, first of all, about a week ago in the Bleacher Report, and now it's been followed up several times with Aaron Rodgers refusing to address it, other players, other people out there saying it's unfair. That's what I want to ask you, Teddy. Is this piece in the Bleacher Report has several players on record talking about Aaron Rodgers' personality and his leadership. It is a lot of names we have heard several times criticizing Rodgers. It's Greg Jennings. It's Jermichael Finley. It's Jeff Janis. It's a lot of the same guys. That's fair to point out. Do you think that there is enough smoke here that we need to give credence to question Aaron Rodgers' leadership and how far that can ultimately take the Packers? Or everybody has critics, everybody has personality critics, and nobody's universally liked, this is unfair to Rodgers? Which way is this for you?
Well, I think there's credibility to it. You got former teammates willing to put their names on it, and God, it's obvious out there at times in the past of his reaction and his body language and the eye rolls and the way him and McCarthy were at each other. You could tell there was something going on there. And, I mean, watching Aaron Rodgers, he does have a little bit of arrogance to him. So you have to consider all of that. But this is what you also got to consider. This right here is got Pittsburgh Steelers written all over it. I mean, it can just morph into something else if they let it. So LaFleur, I am using the Pittsburgh Steelers situation as an example. I mean, fellas, look, it's a year later, and here they are. This is what happened 12 months ago. This is what was said 6 months ago, and here we are still in April. Look what's happening here, fellas. We're being attacked from the outside by this report. Okay, we've counterpunched a little bit with the gloves on, and we've defended Aaron. Now drop the gloves. It's over. We got to move forward. This is going to be a sign of what type of coach LaFleur is now, if he can just squash this quickly, because there is validity with the former Packers saying it, but moving on is tough to do, and letting your players let go and move on is going to be tough for him to establish as a head coach. We'll see how he does.
Whoa, this is the Pittsburgh Steelers all over, or can be, or can morph into that.
It can be possible if every time they're asked, they go ahead and give another response. Every time they see something on social media, they go ahead and comment themselves. They can do that and let this fester and let this get bigger and bigger out there in the public and in the media, or they can squash it. I saw Devontae Adams and how he commented. He defended his quarterback. I think Aaron's defended himself enough. It's time to move on and just say, I've commented on that. We're on to the offseason program, mini camps, anything about 2019 season. That's how they got to squash it.
You know, one of the things you said there that I want to follow up on is you said there's obviously validity, or there appears to be some validity, and this could be the Pittsburgh Steelers all over again. So I could draw that logic, Teddy, and go backwards with it too. There can be some validity to the criticism of Ben Roethlisberger. There can be some validity to the criticism, obviously, to Antonio Brown. But the point at some point for your franchise and for your team, this is what I'm hearing from you, is stop. Who cares if it's right or wrong? You have a goal now that you guys are going to have to put it all behind you to move forward to.
Yeah, you know, you hear the players say things like, when it's during the season about football, you know, we can't worry about, if I'm a Packers player, we can't worry about the Bears or what the Vikings are doing. We only can control what we can control. Well, that's on the field football performance and wins and losses. But it's the same off the field about taking care of distractions. You can't control other people on how they feel and on their opinions and how they express them. It's only about your opinion and your attitude and leadership in the locker room. Focus on that and moving on. So it does relate, but it's just hard to let it go when someone's coming at you and it's sort of gossip-like.
All right, ESPN NFL analyst Teddy Bruschi here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Appreciate you, Teddy. Have fun this weekend on Monday. Go run fast.
Thanks, buddy. All right, buddy. I'll finish.
All right, see you, man. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive's Home Quote Explorer gives you multiple quote options so you can pick what's right for you. See for yourself at Progressive.com. I talked about Russell Westbrook. I talked about Kyrie Irving, but what about James Harden? How much pressure? What are the expectations for what Harden and the Rockets have to do? That's coming up on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Gentlemen, stop lounging around. Be active. Take your girl out. Go to a game or concert. Get tickets or something. The NBA playoffs begin this weekend. The time is now to jump on those tickets. For all your ticket needs, look no further than Vivid Seats, the official ticket partner of ESPN. Go to vividseats.com and enter promo code ESPN to get 10% off your first order. Get out. Go have an experience, fellas. Get to the game and use Vivid Seats. Don't buy just any seat. Get a Vivid Seat. What do we need to see from James Harden? It's Will Cain on the Stephen A. Smith Show.